Hi, my name is Julie Hilton, and I'm here to talk with you today about using conscious discipline resources to address trauma. This training was originally developed by Allison Miller, myself, and Brian Clark as a series of trainings on conscious discipline. Our objectives for today are to understand how the foundations of conscious discipline can help us navigate this unprecedented time in our world through safety, connection, and problem solving, and to explore resources that instructional staff can use to support students as they experience stress and trauma. So today we're going to start with this video from the Conscious Discipline website about how to make a bully from scratch. This video is a little less than 10 minutes long, but we hope it will set the stage for our discussion today. So as you view the video, you may want to take notes or make some personal reflections about things you have experienced in the classroom or just things you have experienced. So let's take a look.
After the shock of another school shooting, have you ever wondered how on earth did we not see the signs? How could parents, family members, teachers, and neighbors not have seen a problem in the making? Our best hope of preventing school violence comes from understanding the bully-victim dynamic. Bullying is a relationship issue. Together, let's see how to make a bully from scratch. It takes years to make a bully. In fact, all bullies start out as victims. A child doesn't wake up one day and decide, I think I'll be a bully, any more than a child wakes up and says, I think I'll be a victim. Becoming a bully is a journey of specific life experiences starting at birth. There are road signs along the way that signal intervention is needed. We must know the signs to effectively derail the bully life path. To do this, it's important to distinguish between normal aggression and bullying. Children no longer say, he teased me or she hit me. Instead announce, I was bullied at school. Even a president of the United States, Barack Obama, says he was bullied for having big ears. He probably was indeed teased, but not bullied. Bullying is a specific and very serious type of aggression. Let's travel together on a 5-stop journey into the heart of how a bully is made so we can learn to see the signs. Missing them can be deadly. We will start at the beginning of human life, years before you might have thought. Step into our transporter. First stop, the mother's womb. Let's imagine these children-to-be represent all the kids in the world. Of these children, a handful will experience some form of prenatal stressors and develop a difficult temperament. These little ones are hard to soothe and have trouble sleeping or eating. You love them deeply, but they're a little hard to fall in love with. When you play peekaboo, there are no smiles or giggles. These children turn and squirm away. A parent at this time might feel like, you've been crying since you were born. I tried blowing raspberries and you cried. I tried rocking you and you cried. I can't handle this anymore. Just shut up. This parent is really saying, I love you, but I'm having a hard time falling in love with you. Help. This is so hard. Some of these children with difficult temperaments will have very out-of-control behaviors. They're defiant toddlers, and later, hard-to-manage 3-year-olds. Feeling powerless, parents resort to chronic, punitive discipline that victimizes their own children. I will count to 3. You better get over here or else. 1, 2. By age 3, we start to see 2 different types of victims emerging. One is aggressive, defiant, and hot-tempered. The other is passive, acquiescent, and anxious. Let's get back into the transporter. Our next stop is preschool and kindergarten. During this time, our children find themselves in more complex social settings like school. They have trouble playing with others, from a lack of basic social skills and the ability to regulate their own behavior. Other children often exclude them, finding them boring or being frightened by their aggression and outburst. Teachers don't have the skills either, and further compound the problem by using their own exclusion strategies. Go to timeout. Go sit in that chair now. These kids are emotionally reactive when things don't go their way. The aggressive child goes from upset to rage in seconds. The passive child gives up just as quickly. Since they cannot self-regulate, they are unable to learn appropriate social skills. The aggressive child hits, grabs, and takes what he wants. The passive child allows others to hit and grab without saying a word. Their chronically stressed brain creates mental distortions in the way they perceive themselves and others. The aggressive child sees hostile intent in others' everyday actions. The passive child believes he should be treated poorly and expects poor treatment from others. Adults tend to see the aggressive child as mean and the passive child as unmotivated or lazy. These judgments blind us to the road signs, allowing the aggressive child to move one step closer to becoming a bully and the passive child in becoming a victim. Aboard, let's continue on to first and second grade. Things get worse as our children move further into the world of friends. All human beings require a sense of belonging. These children, desperate for connection, are often pushed to the side by classmates, teachers, and schools. They have been excluded from connections with others since birth. This immense social pain actually involves the same pathways in the brain as physical pain in the body. Somewhere during this time, the social pain of rejection becomes so great, the brain undergoes significant changes. For both bullies and victims, the brain compensates for a life of painful disconnection. Buckle in as we continue to see what happens to these children ages 8 through 12. Both our bully and victim are still searching for connection and a place to belong. Since the mainstream tends to exclude them, they move towards one another. The bully says, "You're mine, I own you, now do what I say or else." And the victim provokes or acquiesces because a bad connection seems better than no connection at all. Both our bully and victim are now immune to consequences because they simply don't care. One of the changes their brain has gone through is to shut down the caring system. Adults might threaten with, "You're going to get kicked out of school." "Go ahead, kick me out, I don't care." "We are going to call your parents." "So what? I don't care." "We're going to take away computer privileges." "I don't care. I don't like the computer anyway." "We are going to ground you, spank you, send you to alternative school." "Yeah, so what?" Since the part of the brain responsible for the motivation to care is literally turned off, there is no punishment or discipline that will help. Rewiring this system can only occur through connections with others. When children say, "I don't care," their brain is unconsciously saying, "I don't feel cared for by anyone, anywhere." Our final stop brings us to the teenage years. Continually trying so hard to belong, the bully may join a gang of tough guys or hook up with some mean girls. They perfect their craft through cyberbullying, spreading rumors, physical action, and day-to-day threats. At this point, the bully is now a dangerous teenager whose brain has changed in two very significant ways. The brain has become programmed to biochemically experience pleasure from hurting others. The bully's internal pharmacy provides him with opioids that act like morphine to deaden the pain of his life journey. The teenager is literally addicted to causing others pain. The brain is immune to rejection and ostracism. This teenager no longer feels a need to belong or care. The skill of empathy is offline. Our victim, on the other hand, lacks the internal pharmacy that a bully has to provide him with relief. The teenager is prone to suffering quietly and then exploding. The pain can become so intense that he may kill himself or others, as we have seen play out in school shootings. Bullying a bully with tough measures and excluding him with no-tolerance policies compounds the problem. We are systematically applying the exact treatment that created the bully in the first place, and then expecting it to help. Effective discipline consists of two parts: the slow building of bonds and healthy relationships, and the quick strategies needed in the heat of the moment when conflict occurs. Bully prevention and intervention can only occur in the slow stages of relationship building. Our awareness of the 5 road signs and how a bully is made will save countless lives. Conscious Discipline has effective, researched interventions for every road sign along the way. Join us on a journey to a better world. We can walk this road together. Are you willing?
Every time I see that video, it really causes me to pause and think, and I see new things. Um, it shows the importance of building those relationships and establishing connections. I think it shows the importance of what's happening in the brain, and it gives us hope that we can learn about and help students learn the skills that they need to develop self-regulation. And I think learning about the brain states that conscious discipline helps us understand is very beneficial. So let's take a look at one more video about some interventions that we can use in our preschool classroom for teaching these missing skills.
Road sign number 2 is difficulty playing with friends. This is 3 to 5-year-olds. And this is going to show you some red flags. This is not a phase these children go through. It is literally a red flag. Now, during the preschool years, play is brain food. Playing with adults, playing with peers, playing with blocks, imaginative play, dress up in Spider-Man. They need to play with their friends. Children with difficult temperaments and having early stressors in the 0 to 3 years have difficulty playing. They may be the one who would choose to knock down the block someone else built, then have the inner resources to build their own tower. All preschoolers need help learning how to take turns, get what they want without using aggression, and interplay. But children with difficult temperaments need additional support to do this. They will need help asking for a turn.
Oh, Alex, it looks like Chris wishes that that was not a part of the road. And Chris, did you like it? Okay, tell Alex, use your big voice. Say, Alex, I don't like it when you draw on the road.
I don't like it when you draw on
Next time, ask me first.
Next time.
Are you willing to ask first? Yes? Okay, say, I can do that.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
They will need help entering the play of others. Can I play with you?
We want to get Chris's attention, so the safe way to get his attention is tap, say his name, and wait for him to look. Say, Chris. Wait for him to look. Try again. Say, Chris. You look. Say, may I play?
Yeah, I play.
Oh, it worked. He said yes. He said yes. And look, your feelings change. Your mouth's going up like this.
They will need help calming themselves down and may need to be taught in many, many imaginative ways.
Kendall, the baby is wailing and sobbing.
see children having difficulty playing with others in that 3rd through 5th year of life, this is a red flag, and you can do something about it. Start right now utilizing the skills you've seen in this video and seek additional information from the resources we're providing you.
I think that if we were live and could see each other and talk with each other, and I ask you to raise your hand if you had ever worked with a child who had difficulty in one of those areas, resolving a conflict, entering play, or calming down, that all of us would raise our hand. I think these are behaviors that we often see in the preschool classroom. And I think that video really highlights some specific ways that we can help teach children the skills they need. Notice the teacher was right there beside them, giving them the words, making sure they practiced the words. And so I think that video is really important as well. So the remainder of our time today, we want to talk about 5 steps for reaching children with trauma. We know from brain research and information that we have that trauma is stored in the body as symptoms, not in the brain as a story. The younger the child is, the more vulnerable they are to trauma. And children and adults with trauma live with a very small window of tolerance. Like in the first video, the piece not fitting in the puzzle, there wasn't a big window of tolerance before they explode when things don't go their way. And so the goal of conscious discipline is to develop resilience through safety and connection, which will increase that window of tolerance. We do this several ways: through the school family, through the 7 powers of conscious adults that we learn about, and the 7 skills of conscious discipline. We also know that children who have been affected by trauma are relationship resistant. And so we're going to have to be really intentional in working to build those relationships and connections. So let's look at these 5 steps for reaching children with trauma. Step number 1 is to know your trigger. Know what pushes your buttons. We all have things that push our buttons, and we need to know how to respond. When we have a trigger, when somebody has pushed our buttons, that usually pushes us down into the survival state or the emotional state. So we need to use the strategies, the next 4 steps, to make sure we can move back to that executive state in our brain so that we are going to be able to help the child. It's helpful to say to yourself, when you feel your button just got pushed, to say to yourself, I am safe, just breathe, I can handle this. And that goes right along with our second step, which is to upload and download Calm. On the previous page, we saw that pause button. So once your buttons have been pushed, imagine that you have a pause button on your chest. When something triggers upset, press that pause button. And then we want to use one of the breathing strategies to upload our Calm, and then be able to download that to the student that we're trying to help. One of the breathing strategies is to smile, take a deep breath, and relax. That is the STAR breathing strategy. There are many breathing strategies: the drain, the pretzel, balloon breathing. So any of the breathing strategies that work for you. Once your buttons have been pushed, push that pause button and you upload the Calm by doing the breathing. We know that we need to take those 3 deep breaths to cut off that stress reaction that we have, and to let the toxins out of our body and our brain so that we are going to be able to move back to our executive state. When breathing, it's also important to remember that we want our exhale to be longer than our inhale. And often we encourage children, and I've also begun to practice it now too, to make that noise when you are exhaling. So as you take that deep breath in, and then when you exhale, you want to blow it out. Shh. and see how long you can make that last. Um, we know that the adult state is going to dictate the child state, because in the preschool years, we have to be their co-regulator. And so if I approach the child in my emotional or survival state, they can't move to their executive state when I am either with my words or my actions showing them how upset I am. That's why it's so important to insert that pause between the trigger and your response, to give you that space to choose wisdom and compassion over upset. One of the tools that we can use is something called DNA. In DNA, the D stands for describe. So once we've pushed our pause button, we've taken our deep breaths, we're going to say to the child, your face is going like this. I have used this strategy over and over, and 99% of the time, when you say that, your face is going like this, the child is going to look at you to see what you are doing. And that is your moment to download calm to them by breathing. So you say your face is going like this. And when they look, you're going to take that deep breath and exhale. And because of mirror neurons in our brain, they are going to do the same thing. The next part of the DNA process is to name. You seem angry. You seem sad. So I'm going to name what it seems like they are feeling. And then we're going to acknowledge. That's the A. You wanted to stay outside longer and play, and it's time to go inside. So that DNA process is to describe. Once they look at you, download that calm, name what they are feeling, and then acknowledge what they wanted. So that's step 2, making sure you can upload and then download the calm. Step 3 is to shift from judging to noticing. And I think this is one of the hardest things that I've had to reteach myself. Noticing, the skill of noticing, brings the unconscious to the conscious. We want to use you talk instead of I talk, and it sets the stage for self-regulation. So when I say, using I talk, I like the way Julie is sitting on the carpet, that is judging. And what that can sometimes do is create a feeling of upset or wonder in the children whose name maybe you don't mention. They're wondering, well, are they not sitting correctly, or does she not like me? When we judge, I like the way you pick the blocks up. Does it send the message, well, she only likes me when I do things she wants me to do? But when we notice, when we say, you used your walking feet to come to the carpet, that was safe. You picked up the crayons off the floor so no one would step on them and break them. That's taking good care of our materials. That was helpful. When we move it to the noticing with the you talk, then that creates a script for not only ourselves, for all the students in the class are hearing that language and hearing about being helpful versus hurtful, or safe versus unsafe. Dr. Becky Bailey says the difference between noticing and judging is the difference between conflict and peace within ourselves, each other, and our world. Noticing promotes eye contact. It provides consciousness to an unconscious procedural memory. It breaks us into two, and it's taken me a long time to understand that. I can notice what I am doing. When I say, you walked around the spill on the floor so you wouldn't slip and get hurt, that was keeping yourself safe. Then I'm creating that message that the child can see themselves doing that. You talk becomes I talk in the other person's head. So when I'm using that you talk, you walked around the spill on the floor. They're hearing in their head, I walked around the spill. I kept myself safe. Instead of me using the I talk, I like the way you walked around the spill. It takes a little time, but this is an important shift in our thinking as we help children develop self-regulation skills and as we work with students who have experienced trauma. If we do not help the child change their inner speech, then they are not going to be able to change their regulatory systems and they remain in that trauma. So, this is so important and so important in the early years. The work we do in these preschool years is so very important. The fourth step is to find something in common with the child. We've talked about connection a lot. If you have watched any of the other videos or learned anything about conscious discipline, you know there's a large focus on connection. Connection wires the brain for impulse control and willingness. And when I can find something in common with the child, I can make that connection with them. And as I begin to build those relationships, that's going to help me in so many ways as I work with them to develop self regulation skills. One example I can share is about a year and a half ago at the school where I work, we had a student who had a really difficult time going to the bus. That was a trigger for her every day. She didn't really want to go home because of some trauma she had experienced. And so at bus time, she might start to run away. She might start to tantrum. And all of us, the classroom team, the people in the building were trying to work to help this student be able to successfully make it from the classroom down to the bus. And one day I just heard her coming into the office. You could hear her coming, if you know what I mean. And I'm thinking, how can I help this student? I just looked around my office trying to find something that maybe I could start a conversation with or something she would connect with. And I had a Clifford puppet. So I took the puppet and walked up to the front of the office where I could hear her in her very upset way. And I, went over to her and started talking to her about Clifford and how Clifford needed to get home. Clifford was a dog, but he needed a friend to show him how to walk to the bus, and to keep him safe. And so through that, we made a connection that day, and she took Clifford home with her and took care of Clifford on the bus. And I let the bus monitor know, that Clifford was going to ride home with her. The next day, before dismissal time, I had printed out a picture of my dog, Lady, because in our conversation we had talked about, did she have a dog? Did she like dogs? And so the next day, I printed out a picture of Lady. And so as we walked to the bus together, we were able to talk about my dog and things that she liked to do. And so just making that connection, finding something in common with the child is going to build the bridge for that relationship so you can begin to really help them. And step number 5 is seek connection and don't give up. This is so important because this work is hard. Children who have experienced trauma, as we said earlier, are relationship resistant. And so you're going to have to really be willing to never give up, to continue to try to make the connections, even when it feels like you're not making progress. If you look at this visual, that's hard work, pushing that big boulder up that incline. But I think it really signifies we've got to stick with it. We've got to never give up. As we were talking about connection on the previous slide, the 4 critical elements of connection are eye contact, playfulness, presence, and touch. And we want to keep those things in mind because without connection, children are locked in their trauma. When they can begin to make connections, when they can begin to feel safe, then they will socially engage. When they feel danger, they're going to fight or flight. That's what we see. I know it's hard work, but it's oh so worth it. And so I encourage you, as you work with students who have experienced trauma, make sure that you seek connection and don't give up. Make sure that you're trying to build those relationships and find something in common with them. Make sure that you're remembering when your buttons get pushed to upload and download the Calm and how important the breathing is, and to begin to shift from that practice of judging to the practice of noticing. Before we go, I just want to highlight a few conscious discipline resources if you're interested in learning more. These are all great places to go. So Conscious Discipline has a website. It's here, www.consciousdiscipline.com. You can see there's a tab for free resources there, professional development. There are all kinds of resources here. There are webinars, there are articles, there are social stories, there are printables for Wish You Wells and some of the things that have been talked about in some of the other trainings. There is Schubert's Classroom, where you can go. It would be like looking in your classroom and look at different areas of the classroom and how to incorporate some of the practices and routines and rituals from conscious discipline. So I really encourage you to check out that website. They also have an official Facebook page. And so if you're on Facebook, you might want to join their Facebook group, and they post things almost every day, reminders, videos, interviews with people who are using conscious discipline. So that's a great way to connect as well. They also have a YouTube channel. So if you want to watch the video again, the Bully from Scratch, the different road signs, they have a lot of videos on their YouTube channel. And they're also on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, they are at Conscious D. So those are all some resources that you can use. The information today did come from their website, and then also from a webinar that they presented on understanding trauma, reaching and teaching children who have trauma. We are also available if you have questions or want more information. You can reach out to any of the three of us, and we are happy to show what we know and have experienced in our journey with conscious discipline. We hope you have enjoyed this training and hope you have a great day, and that you will find this information useful. Thank you so much for being with us today.